Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening. On this week's show, we will be gearing up for Saturday's trip in the FA Cup up to Preston North End. Joining me to look ahead to that game and to speak about much, much more. First up, top right, the First Lady of Charlton Live, Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
I'm very good, thank you, Louis. Nice to hear your voice is better.
Yeah, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I'm saying I'm operating at 95% vocal capacity now. Not that I want to show off or anything, but yeah, good to good to see you, Sue. Also, someone who's come dressed as a Sue Gallop tribute act this evening is wearing the same beige hoodie. It's Tom Walling. How you doing, Tom?
I'll take a second lady of Charlton Live or third lady, whatever.
Well,
But I'm all
Tash
right.
is gone now, so yeah, Tash is
true,
gone
yeah.
now. So,
Up to number 2. Lovely stuff.
you've been promoted to second. Yeah, well
Thanks
done,
very much.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
cheers. All my
Good
hard
to-
work paid off.
Yeah, finally. Good to see you both here on the Charlton Live. So as I said, on this evening's show, we're going to be looking ahead to Saturday's trip up to Preston North End in the third round of the FA Cup. Really looking forward to that. We're going to hear from George Hodgson from the Lancashire Post later on in the show. We're going to hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, as well, looking ahead to that game. We've got a couple of other bits of audio from Nathan's press day earlier on today. I thought we'd talk, injuries. We can talk a little bit of transfers, all that sort of stuff to talk about. But let's just very briefly, Sue, FA Cup, third round. It's been a while since we've been there. I mean, it's a nice distraction from the league. And actually, considering how disappointed I was when we got this draw, I'm actually quite looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's a weird one with the FA Cup, isn't it? Because I think I've made it quite known. I'm one of those that sit on the old concentrate on the league fence. But I think, yeah, when you look at it, playing a team in the league above will possibly show what we might be made of. Really, like it's a good test, and I think it's something that you've really got, like that whole sort of thing about there's no expectation because they're in the league above. It'd be lovely if we got a result, but we're not that. Are we that fussed if it doesn't go in, if we don't get a result? Do you know what I mean? So I think in that respect, it's kind of that a good draw. I mean, ideally, you want a Prem club, don't you? But I think for round 3, getting, because historically we tend to get the sort of same League 2 jobs, don't we? So it's quite nice to be drawn with a team that's in the league above us. And again, it's a winnable game. They're like mid-table in the Championship, so you never know.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly. It's weird, isn't it? How I was so disappointed when that draw first came out. But it's that phrase "winnable," Tom, that sort of got me thinking for Saturday. It's a Championship side, not in bad form actually. I think they've had a decent little recent run, but they're sitting very mid-table as well. When I spoke to George earlier on today, very very mid-table. For them, so I mean, it's probably they haven't got much to lose, but for us, there's a statement to be made there and something to give the supporters who travel.
Yeah, and I was having a look at their stats ahead of this show, and pretty much any attacking, defensive, any stat, they're about mid-table. So they're about as mid-table as it comes. And I think that's a good test for us because ultimately in the next 2-3 seasons, that would be great for us. I'm not saying long-term, but for us to be a stable mid-table Championship club is kind of where we're aiming. So I think it's a good opportunity to test ourselves against that. Of course, in a cup game, it's not quite the same as playing them in a league match. I get that. So if we do go and beat them, it's not okay. So we can clearly handle ourselves in the Championship, but it's a good opportunity to test ourselves against them. As you say, they're on a good little run. Paul Heckingbottom's an experienced manager who's done well at that level and maybe not so well above, but he's had experience above a little bit like Nathan's had as well. So yeah, it's a good test. I think most of us as fans want to be playing clubs of that size and that level every week. At the moment, we can't, and that's our own fault as a club. I'm not saying we deserve to yet, but that's where we want to get. So it's a good test. It is one that we could get through. And then again, like Sue says, you're then looking at the Premier League. But if we don't, I don't think it's one that we need to worry too much about. I don't think it's one that kills too much of our momentum and we come back to the league and crack on with the run that we're on. So yeah, it's not quite a free hit as such, but it's one that I think Nathan's going to go out and say, okay, look, let's see what we can do, because we've been on a good run in the league against both the clubs up around us and also the clubs further down. Now go out against the club that are in the division above, in kind of where you want to be, and see what you can do. So yeah, a little bit like you. I was a bit disappointed when it came out because it wasn't, one of the top 6 in the Premier League. But now it's come around. It's like, okay, I'm quite ready for a week off because it's been, I've been enjoying the run we're on. But at the same time, it's stressful and it's tense now because now I'm back in the belief that we might get in the playoffs and we've got something to play for. So that's it's nice to have a bit of a break from that, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously in that vein, we've got a very good chance of winning the FA Cup as well because we're still in it. We're still on track. Excellent. Right, I forgot to say good evening to everyone in the chat as well, by the way. Evening to Sam, who was the first one in there, saying hopefully the game will go ahead with the current weather. If we can go into the game with the current mindset and game plan, I feel we can cause an upset. Yeah, so keeping an eye on the weather. It's all very difficult a couple of days out to get any indication either way. I'm hopeful it will go ahead, but obviously we won't know until we get a bit closer. Evening to Colin, who's in the chat. All hell let loose as well. John, Ray's in there. Joseph, Peter, Andrew. Let us know your thoughts ahead of the game. Yeah, Bernie talking about. He says it's been -2 in Manchester today. Be surprised if the game was. Let's say that the clubs do have frost covers as well, so hopefully that will not be a problem. But we'll see the closer we get. So yeah, everyone in the chat, let us know your thoughts ahead of the cup tie. Email studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can add in a live comment, especially in this first half of the show where we're going to have a bit more of an open discussion before refocusing our attention on the trip to Preston North End on Saturday up at Deepdale, famous old ground, obviously being redeveloped. But yeah, really looking forward to getting back up there for the first time in about 5 years, I think. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about before we hear from Nathan Jones is, of course, the fact that Miles Leaburn has been nominated for the Player of the Month in League One, alongside Milinek Ali at Exeter, Omar Beckles at Orient, and £25 billion man Jay Stansfield up at Birmingham. I mean that's a rich field he's up against there, Sue. But I mean we won't officially know the result until the morning. But I mean if he can win that, that'll be a major achievement and real testament to what he has done over the last the last month.
Yeah. And I guess like part of us that are a bit cynical would say that draws more attention to the fact that he's so amazing and that someone might come in for him. But yeah, I mean, he fully deserves it. He's been, I mean, as we talked about on Sunday, he had a bit of a rough start when he came back in, but that's expected. He's been out for pretty much a season because he'd been injured, then got back in, then got injured again. So I think to sort of be playing the way he has been playing, he definitely deserves it. I've never heard of the other three, so I think Miles is nailed on to win it. But yeah, for his confidence as well, stuff like that to be actually noticed because we're little old Charlton. I just think it's a great achievement, not just for him as a player, but even for the squad, because again, he's playing as part of a team and a squad, and because of the results we're having and how the team feel a lot more settled, it's probably allowing Miles to play his game better. So I think it's just a reflection on the team as a whole, as well as someone that's just absolutely thriving in the position that he's in.
Yeah, I know it's tongue-in-cheek as well, but I mean, in particular, I think Omar Beckles, who's been a thorn in our side over the years, but if you look at Orient's recent defensive record as well, he'd certainly be up there as well. But from a Charlton point of view, I was thinking this the other day, Tom, have we been a little bit over-reliant on Miles? And it seems silly to say that considering the amount of goals that we've got from Matty Godden so far this season, but it's clearly nothing. Maybe you're oversimplifying it to say things have clicked now that Miles is back, but he certainly played a big part in that, getting us with a better focal point up front. Someone who can score goals as well as bring others into play. Clearly got a good touch on him for a big man, as he effectively said himself in his interview in the Guardian today, if you read it. But have we been over reliant on him? Is it a little bit of a worry that since the two best players in the side, Jones and Leaburn, have come back, that we've been that good, or would that just happen to any side you take away the two best players?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, if you take those players out of any sides, you're going to struggle. And I don't think we're over-reliant in him in that. As Sue says, when he first came back, I was certainly very critical of him on this podcast because I didn't think he was delivering. And as a result, he wasn't playing 90 minutes and he sometimes wasn't starting games. The reason he is performing week in, week out at the moment, playing week in, week out at the moment, is because he's performing. That would be the same for anybody. Now, it might be because he is good and we're reliant on him. I'm not going to suggest that Gassan could do the same, for example, if he came in. But you don't know. And Matty Godden has done it in the past where he comes into a team and he will score week in, week out. Okay, that hasn't clicked for him here, but that might just be coincidence. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that we're over-reliant on him. He's a striker at this club who is in a good, rich vein of form. And as a result, we're playing him week in, week out. And that's what you should be doing. It'll be interesting to see if we do rotate for the FA Cup. I suspect Jones won't because he wants to play his strongest team and Miles is in that. But when somebody like a Chucks came on at the weekend, obviously, and I know we have to manage him, but we know what he can do. As I say, Matty Godden was up until recently, or just looking at the bottom of the screen there, still our joint top scorer. So he's got goals in him. So no, I don't think that is the case at all. And last year, again, just as that scrolls along the bottom, we've got 3 players on 4, 1 player on 3, and quite a few players on 1. Now, I know that's not a brilliant spread, but at this stage last year, it was Alfie May on about 150 and nobody else with even 1. So I don't think that is the case. No, I think our best players are in a good vein of form, and that's why we're playing well. But I don't think that's over-reliance on them. We do need to be able to rotate more. And as I say, Gas hasn't been as brilliant as we'd like. Kanu hasn't quite clicked since he's come back yet, and Chucks is obviously very fresh in terms of him coming back. But that's okay. That's all right. Whilst Miles is playing like he is, let's use him. And if he goes off the boil, we need one of those others to step up. And that's what they need to do, just like they needed to do when Miles wasn't quite clicking as he started his return to sort of full fitness. So, I read the article you did. It came across well. I like him. I want him to kick on, and I hope he can stick around for a little bit longer.
And 76, Rufus says, really great for a young lad who's had 2 possible career-ending injuries. All hell let loose, says he thinks playing 2 up top has helped Miles recently. Right, I can see in the chat that people want to talk transfers, so let's hear what Nathan Jones had to say when he was asked about the transfer window earlier on today.
It's January. We're in the transfer window. We're remiss of me not to mention it. So I have to ask: you're still expecting there to be movement both in and out of the club?
Look, I'll be clear and honest with what we do. We will, for the good of players and squad and everyone, we will try and move a few out to streamline the squad and to give them the best chance of furthering their career. We'll be, we've got no real passengers here, no bad eggs or anything in the thing. So we're not trying to get rid of anyone because we don't want them here. What it is, we've got a slightly too big a squad at the minute. That's again a bit of that's historical, but then obviously with the club backing us in the window, we got what we wanted. So that's a little bit left over from there. So we'll try to streamline the squad, and then there'll be 1, maybe 2 players that we want to bring in certain positions that we feel are key now to give us a real attacking impetus. So that's what we're looking at now. We've done some real good business in the window, and we're starting to see what we signed in the summer window, and now we just got to add that little bit more quality, a little bit more attacking threat, a little bit or something different, and that's what we'll do. Now that is ongoing. We won't bring anyone for the sake of it. So if we get to the end of the window we haven't signed anyone, it means we haven't found anyone that's better than what we have in the squad. But we are looking now to actively strengthen in the attacking areas.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones speaking about the transfer situation earlier on today. So looking at the chat, I think the first question people are talking about is more outs than ins, Sue. Particularly, I noticed today that the Football League World website suggested that Wickham had bids turned down for Lloyd Jones. Now, one of the things you always have to remember in the January or any transfer window is that sometimes stories can get out that aren't always exactly 100%. So Football League World have a lot of good sources. They'll get stuff out of clubs and agents and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes the people playing the games, we don't know either way for certain if that's what's happened. Because I know those rumours have been around for more than a week, and I heard a while ago that the bids hadn't come in. But if anything's changed since then who knows? But either way, he's still our player. So, is he one you're concerned about keeping? A couple of people. John says I can't see him leaving in January. Andrew says selling Lloyd Jones to Wickham would be humiliating. It goes without saying that selling Lloyd Jones to Wickham would not be what fans would want, and it would be a bit silly. I don't think it's particularly what the club want to do either as well.
I mean, we talked about it on Sunday, didn't we, in the show about Lloyd, and people were sort of saying, would you cash in now or just keep him for the rest of the season and let him leave on a free in the summer if that was going to be the situation? I mean, in an ideal world, we'll sign him on a new contract and we'll have him for another 3 years. But what I would say is, again, when it's quite rare, isn't it, in the January window that people pay money for someone, especially when they've only got 6 months left on their contract, unless they're absolutely desperate and they've got silly amounts of money to spend. So if I'm honest, I feel fairly confident that Lloydie will still be here at the end of the window. It's the longer term part of his contract that I'm probably more worried about. But yeah, I can't see it. I can't see anyone agreeing to sell him when he's only got that small amount of time left on his contract, and I can't imagine someone coming in with money.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends the amount they'd offer, I guess. I mean, as Paul points out in the chat, I mean, Wickham have already signed Sonny Bradley this window, so maybe suggest that they've done their business, or he says they're linked with another one as well. But James saying Lloyd Jones will go if he doesn't sign a new contract. Surely Wickham doing well, so would make sense. Have they got money? I mean, again, I if he doesn't sign a contract, I mean, unless I can't imagine we're that desperate for whatever bid we'd get for him, Tom. Like, it wouldn't be earth shattering unless it comes from a Championship club with more money, perhaps, than a Wickham. So I just can't see why that would be. I mean, the situation for me is you try and get him signed up on a longer deal. Obviously, as a player, he has a lot of power now because he's playing well. So therefore, there's nothing to stop him seeing out this 6 months and then seeing what he wants to do after that. It's difficult. I guess the only way you tie him down now is by making him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah, and they also have the power in that they can command a better signing on fee, can't they, if the clubs are not having to pay for them in the first place. So I don't think necessarily Lloyd is thinking that way. I don't think he wants to screw Charlton over if he's thinking about moving on. But at the same time, he's not a Charlton fan, so he's not got any loyalty to us above and beyond what he does on the pitch for us week in, week out, which, as you say, has been very, very good. So I don't know. With all of our players, I was going to say just particularly at our level, but really at any level, any player, unless you're at the very top, is available for the right price. It depends what the right price is and how much the club can afford to wait. I'd like to think with this ownership and everything they've said that we're prepared to wait a little bit longer and for a value that, we as fans do think is fair, unlike we've seen in the past where we've offloaded players, particularly youngsters, for nowhere near enough and maybe had our fingers burned. I think if we were in the top 6 already and we hadn't had the run that we'd been on prior to the last 4 or 5 games, I think this would be less of a question. It would be much easier for Nathan to say, stick around, see where we are at the end of the season. I appreciate that's a little bit harder when you're sort of playing catch up and you're having to hunt down that top 6. And again, I know I said I'm a little bit more positive than I was, but there's absolutely no suggestion that we're anywhere near it yet. And we need to keep this run going. So, yeah, it depends what people are offering. It depends what the player thinks we're capable of this year. But you're right, whilst he's in a good run of form and you can see the difference he's made since coming back, we can't keep hold of anybody for the right price. If somebody comes in, it's just about what the owners think that right price is. And probably that's going to be different to us as fans, because for us, we're going to overvalue a player, and for owners, they might undervalue. But if this ownership have got the right money, then chuck it at him, because I think he's a better player for us than the money. Because if we get the money now, we've only got 20 days to find somebody to replace him, and we've seen what we're like when he's not in the side. So yeah, I'm hoping he sticks around at least till the end of this season, and after that go wherever, depending on where we are.
David's posed a good question here. So with the change in financial transfer regulations for next season, should GFP spend as much as possible to bring in top quality players in before this season? So without going too much into the detail of it, Sue, basically what Birmingham have done this season is going to become a little bit harder because of the way they're going to sort of change the funding. There'll be different percentages of what money you can spend, of what you put in, that sort of stuff. I don't have all the detail in front of me, but I had a decent read of it when it first came out. So it's been quite clear that that's not been the way the Global Football Partners have wanted to run the club anyway. So I think it's unlikely. But rather than saying will they, the question is should they? Should they take this chance to spend as much as possible to bring in Messi and Ronaldo or the League One versions thereof just before you're not allowed to do it anymore?
I think you always, and again, I think this probably links in quite nicely to the thing with the January window as well. Is the fact that the prices sometimes then are overinflated in the January window because people are desperate to get someone. So are you actually paying more money for someone that's not actually worth that amount? If that makes sense. And I don't know. I think you'd like to say, yeah, just chuck everything you've got at it and buy the best squad we can. But actually, are we sending out the wrong message to the players we've already got? Because you might put some noses out of joint, and also giving the wrong message to other clubs that actually, we've got loads of money, so you can put your transfer fee up by stupid amounts. Do you see what I'm saying? It leaves you really vulnerable in possibly paying more money for somebody that is not actually worth it. It's I think
especially if you're Birmingham and then you actually go and do it as well, like they did with Jay Stansfield. So no one's saying that he's not a good player at this level, but he ain't worth £15 million, is he? So very interesting, right? And then people discussing about, obviously Nathan sort of said about people who aren't getting much football at the moment. Tommy could go out. So Colin saying, I really hope he doesn't sell Terry Taylor. He's done well since he's come in. Why he isn't even in the matchday squad at the moment, even ahead of Alan Campbell, who should return. To Luton, Sam saying, I think Taylor, Eden and Kanu all started in their 21s this week. I feel they could be moved on. Kanu perhaps as a loan. Taylor's the one that interests me the most because he had that little spell in the side, didn't he? But I feel like if a deal's there to be done, I just looking at the way he's not been involved recently, I think it might be done.
Yeah, it feels like it, which is funny because if you were going to ask me where we want some more backup, I would have said central midfield, but I would have said he's one of the ones that I would have kept there. I agree about Alan Campbell not being one of those, but I would have said Terry Taylor is one of the backups for that midfield. I can't remember if it was your show last week with Tash and Lewis, but certainly recently you were talking about the fact that Nathan sort of stumbled on the midfield he has at the moment. And I agree with that. But at the same time, we don't have a lot of strength in depth there. Karoy, I don't know. He's not really showing it consistently enough, although Nathan seems to like him. Campbell hasn't shown it at all. And then you've got Terry Taylor, who, as you say, did show it. But the fact that he's now not getting in and apparently is fit suggests there's something there that Nathan doesn't really see or doesn't like. And it felt that way before that run as well. So I agree with you. Personally, would I want him to stay? Yes, I think he's a good backup. But realistically, if Nathan's not putting him in the squad now, then he's probably a waste of a shirt because Nathan clearly doesn't want him. That's nothing against Terry Taylor because I'd keep him. But if that's the way Nathan sees it, then he's got to go and he's got to get somebody else in because, as I say, if a Coventry or a Dock or a Berry does get injured, Berry can't really play 90. Dock's been hooked on a regular basis. We're sort of looking around at who can fill those positions, particularly the Coventry role, which is kind of where Taylor was playing in the sort of base of that midfield. So I find it strange that he's not playing, but at the same time, if Nathan's mind is made up, then get him out and get somebody in while we can, whether that's another loan or whether that's a permanent, because we don't really have the backup there at the moment.
Yeah, when James said he felt that Taylor's form dropped and he had a tough game against Orient, Jones hasn't played him since. All Hell Let Loose says he's our only creative midfielder, and then Paul points out that Jones seems to like the workhorses in midfield instead of the more technical players like Taylor. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go. And I mean, that's exactly why Anderson gets in, because he brings energy, if nothing else. So, I can see that. Right, let's have a listen to Nathan once more. I spoke earlier on today about the injuries and the fact that they seem to have, on the whole, pretty much cleared up. Obviously, with Kane Ramsey now back in training as well.
When results start going well, that was fit. But no, I'm being tongue in cheek there. We have a body of work, we have people that work right, so there's a collaboration between medical, sports science and first team coaching staff right throughout the club. So we've had a few impact injuries. We've really sort of curtailed the amount of soft tissue ones. We've got a few historical ones, like, which we know about, which we have to manage constantly. But we've been a little bit unfortunate, and we had a lot of the same type of people out. And that's a credit to the medical staff that we've got them back reasonably quickly, or at least on time. Then sports science, in terms of us being a really durable side, that we can go and we can put in the shifts that we are. And then obviously, look, it takes a humility from us that we go, okay, we trust everyone, and that's what we give autonomy to everyone. So it's a real golden thread throughout the club, really, where we trust people, we employ good people. I employ I employ good physios because I'm not very good at it. I employ good sports scientists because I'm not very good, and they're better than me at those things. So we let people do their job, and then hopefully you get an environment, and it's not just for now or a month or 3 months. It's a years and years of good practice right out the football club, and that's what we feel we have here.
On that subject, we saw pictures yesterday of Kane Ramsey joining the squad in training. That must have given everyone at the club, not least Kane himself, obviously a huge lift.
Yeah, look, we want our good players back. Kane is a good player, and we want him back as soon as possible. It's been a tough ride for him since he came here because he got injured the first game. Which, that can happen. Came back and showed what he could do at an excellent pre-season and was fantastic. Started the season wonderfully, and then just had one of those innocuous injuries that was relatively serious. Praise the Lord, it wasn't as serious as it could have been. So that's why we see him in January, and hopefully by the end of the month we'll have him back and firing and providing competition.
There we go. I mean, it's great to see Kane Ramsey back out there in training. So probably still a couple of weeks away from playing by the sounds of it there. So I'm going to ask a question now that I never, ever, ever, ever thought I'd be asking. Does he get in the team ahead of Thierry Small on the wrong side? And hear me out here, because Kane defensively is clearly one of the best in the club. From what I've seen, one of the best we've had for a while defensively at right back. He can read the challenge so well, and he can carry the ball, but he doesn't quite carry it with that explosive pace that Thierry's brought in that just gives sides a little bit something else to think about. So, I mean, I think I know the answer to the question, but it is a question in my head. Like, Thierry has made a bit of a difference playing out of position, albeit with a lack of end product. So, what do you reckon?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I knew you was going to ask me that. As you started talking, I thought, I know what he's going to say here. That's a tough one, isn't it? Because Thierry doesn't deserve to get dropped. So then, do you put him back to his regular position? Or, again, it's like that argument of, do you change a winning side? Even if a player's playing out of position, like, he's doing so well. We bigged him up so much on Sunday about how good he is and how fast he is, and we know Kane's fast, but would he have the same? It's like, right, how would you fit both of them in the side? How are we going to do that? That would be my argument. But at the moment, I would say, as much as I'd love to see Kane back in the side, Thierry, it would be too unfair to drop Thierry or... that's a hard one.
It's a tough one, isn't it, Tom? Because it's purely because I mean, Nathan's even said it in his interviews last week, like we were lopsided, and Thierry is massive sort of square peg, round hole situation, but it's just worked better than I thought it would. Like a threat down both sides. And I think at the start of the season, even when we were playing well, I think we were saying, like, I like the wing backs defensively, but even like Edwards and Ramsey between them don't quite offer what Thierry does. I think Thierry's a bit of a standout in that for us, along with maybe TC, who's playing obviously more as a striker. But yeah, I bet that's exactly the question Kane was hoping we'd all be asking when he finally returns from his long injury. Is he even going to get in the team?
If you'd have asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have said 100% he gets back in. I think now, no, is the short answer. I don't think he does at the moment. I think there's a couple of caveats to that. I think, firstly, we've seen a couple of times this season we need to be able to change things up. So when we had that box midfield against Birmingham, for example, and we were like, oh, brilliant, that works. We used it for a couple of weeks and it worked. And then suddenly it got found out and it didn't. Or even right at the start of the season with the fairly traditional wing backs, We won, 2-3 games in a row, and then suddenly that went off. I know there was injuries there. So I think we need to be able to change things up, and that might mean Small moving over to the other side and Ramsey coming in, or some sort of different configuration of the back five. And so at the moment, I think if everybody's fit, you're still keeping Small there until we see otherwise. The other point is, if we do recruit somebody like a TC, another forward player who's a bit more pacey, and we're able to do more in front of the defence that allows that sort of attacking movement out wide, then maybe you bring Ramsey in and you give his defensive side a chance on the right, and then you've got another TC up front going forward. So it will also depend on recruitment. But I think going into Saturday, for example, why would you change it? Certainly now with Ramsey only just back. But at the moment, until Small does something wrong, a bit like Terry Taylor, they said, I can't remember who it was in the comments, said he had a bit of a poor game, then he came out. I think if Small does that, by all means, chuck Ramsey. And if Ramsey then exceeds, like Brewer's done, Maynard Brewer, Mannion now not getting back in. But if Maynard Brewer does make a mistake, Mannion comes in. That competition is healthy, and it's a problem for Nathan Jones. But for us, it's great to have that headache. The difficulty you've got is as soon as we lose, fans will be like, oh, it's because he picked the wrong one. But we're not losing at the moment. We're playing well, and Thierry Small's playing well, and he doesn't deserve to be dropped, even though we know what Ramsey can offer.
Yeah, as David said, he's playing with confidence at the moment, Thierry Small. Paul saying keep him in, he's earned it. Colin saying Kane was a great signing last year. Maybe we need to look for more young players with potential in League Two and build them up, not old has-beens linked to Luton. Yeah, certainly. I guess I can't remember what the crossover would have been with Jones and Kane Ramsey at Southampton. Were they at Southampton together, or have I made that up? Yeah, so yeah, maybe he knew a little bit about him, but certainly a good find. There was a good point. This is a good suggestion maybe by John, saying maybe get Kane in on the right, put Small back on the left, and then Edwards as left centre-back. So maybe that's one way to fit all three of them into the side. Yeah, All Hell Let Loose asking the same question. Just one more thing that James and All Hell Let Loose both mentioned. I haven't really put it at the top of the show because I hope it won't be a story, but obviously Rob was Edwards left Luton. Nathan Jones loves going to Luton a lot. All Hell Let Loose saying I'm split on the Luton Town situation. If they came for Jones, I don't mind, and if they don't, I'm also nonplussed about him staying. Could he be tempted back to his spiritual home, Sue?
No, I think he started, like he said right at the beginning, this is a project for me now. And I think he started something that he's really enjoying. And I think as he saw, the grass ain't always greener, and it's sometimes you can go back too many times and it doesn't necessarily work out. So I think that's not even an option for him. I think that obviously he was always going to get linked to it because of his history with them, but I don't think so, no.
Yeah, Joseph says, I hope Nathan Jones is a man with integrity. I would expect him to stay and to do what he said he was going to do, at least try, even if Luton were to approach him. Okay, the question, can you see them approaching him as well, Tom? When you've been there twice and left twice, maybe you can't always keep going back to the same manager unless you're Peterborough.
I could see them doing it, to be honest, because they know what he can do for them. So I wouldn't be surprised. When you say approach, I don't know if there will be a formal request for an interview, but I'm sure there are people in the hierarchy at that club who were there when he was there, and I'm sure they will talk to him. But I agree with Sue. I like to think that this project is what he says. I don't know if it's so much integrity as that comment said. If he did go because he felt it was the right move, I think exactly as Paul's just said there. Yeah, I think if that move he feels is the right one, then he would go for it. I'm just not sure he would feel it's the right one. I feel like, yeah, particularly now we've started to pick up performances and he's starting to build his squad. I think if he does go, it would be tough for us because it would put us back on that merry-go-round again. So a bit like you, I'm hoping it doesn't happen. But I'm not sure I see it myself.
Yeah, so Paul's questioning about whether there's integrity in football, and James is questioning whether Nathan Jones is enjoying it. I think this is how Nathan enjoys things, just very ferociously. And angrily, it would seem at times. Right, let's have a quick break. When we come back, it'll be time to turn our attention to the FA Cup trip up to Preston North End.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview, gearing up for Saturday's FA Cup trip up to Preston in a few seconds' time. But Sue, you've got a couple of announcements to make with regards to the Former Players Association.
Yeah, so as people are aware with the Ex-Players Association, we've got an event in March, 2nd of March, where it's players to manager. So it's basically Chris Powell, Johnny Jackson, Lee Bowyer and Alan Kirbishley as a panel, and it'll be a Q&A. We actually have sold just over 350 tickets so far. So there are still tickets available, but also we have been asked about having a live stream for it, and I've put it out on social media to say if people would be willing to pay, because the additional cost to stream something are actually quite expensive. So we would only really be able to do it if people were able to pay an amount towards that. So feel free to contact us on social media, or you can directly message me and I can pass it on. Additionally, we've got this is hot off the press. We've got the Scandinavian cohort coming over to visit us at the Huddersfield game on the 29th of March, So we've got Matt Svensson, Jonathan Johansson, Klaus Jensen and Martin Pringle confirmed as coming to that match, and we're just waiting to hear back from Herman and Dennis in the last minute. So we're looking for fans to give us feedback on how they want it to work on the match day, just in terms of, do they want us to do it like we did with Mark Fish and Sean Bartlett, where we did a Q&A in the fans bar for like a tenner and you got your meal, and then they went to the club shop and then they went to 1905? Or how do people see that they would like that? Because obviously we're really conscious that there'll be a lot of people that won't want to see these guys. So if you can just give us some feedback on that, because I think that's where we want to sort of gear towards. We just start really early in our early days with it all and building it. So we just want to get fans' views on how they want it to look that day, and even just suggestions of what that looks like. So again, you can message me, or you can message the Ex-Players accounts on social medias on Facebook, Instagram and X.
Lovely stuff. That's a couple of excellent lineups. Particularly that management lineup has got to be like 4 of the most important Charlton people in one room at once. James does point out you forgot Alan Pardew, but I assume he's having his own event on another day, so we'll worry about that at the time. Wonderful. Well, that's good news. Right, let's look ahead to Saturday's trip up to Deepdale to take on Preston North End in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Now, earlier on today, I spoke to George Hodgson from the Lancashire Post to find out a little bit more about the Lily Whites. Right, delighted to say that we're joined by George from the Lancashire Post. Been covering Preston for a little while now. Good evening, George. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for your time joining us on Charlton Live ahead of the FA Cup tie on Saturday. Tell us a little bit about how Preston's season's been going so far. 15th in the Championship, 7 points above relegation, 10 off the playoff places. That is what you call a mid-table side, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much where they've been, really. For I think a lot of people from the outside would look and think, "Oh, same old Preston again, another similar season." But started a bit chaotic. Obviously, Ryan Lowe left after one game, and then you're thinking, "Crikey, they've lost the first two matches, gone for a full pre-season, full transfer window, in a bit of a mess, really." So they had to get the appointment right, and I think Paul Heckingbottom's gone down pretty well with the fans who seem to be with him. Been a few bad games here and there, but I guess you're always going to. And then I think they were playing pretty well in the main, but they had this period where there was only 3 wins in the win column after about 19 matches, and you started to worry a little bit. But they've picked up, won a few more, and now I think they're just kind of looking to have a strong second half of the season. I don't think they're going to be near the bottom end. I don't think they'll be challenging near the top, but try and head into the summer with a bit of momentum and kick on in his first full summer pre-season and season as well.
Yeah, I mean, what were the expectations going into this campaign then? Because, I mean, I was looking at the finishes over the last few years, like between 9th and 13th, it seems to be where Preston make their home in the Championship. So was there an expectation that they could go further this year?
No, I don't think so. It was funny, really, because last season under Ryan Lowe finished terribly. They picked up 4 points from the last 8 games, didn't score in 6 of the matches, I think, maybe even 7. So it was funny, finished 10th on paper, pretty solid, but that was largely down to an unbelievable first 8 games to the season, and then it was really up and down. So they kind of weren't really with Ryan Lowe, and then he decided to walk after one game. So, I don't think there was much expectation really heading into it, but it's not to be underestimated. Those finishes you mentioned, 9 to 13 for 8 years, it's solid stuff, but just trying to go that next level, and that hope wasn't really there, I don't think, heading into the season.
Yeah, I can assure you that we'd be biting your arm off for a ninth place finish in the Championship at this moment in time. And Paul Heckingbottom come in, obviously feels like a relatively big name considering where he's been over the last few years. And were the fans quite infused by his arrival?
I think so. I think he was the kind of, unless Preston went back to Alex Neil, who'd been great for us before, I don't think there was any real names standing out at the time. Obviously, since then, a few people have been in and out of work, and some decent appointments up and down the league. But I think at the time of looking for someone, he was the kind of obvious name, and it got done really quickly. I don't think they interviewed too many. I think they made a decision with Heckingbottom and got a safe pair of hands through the door. I think he's quite authentic and relatable for Preston fans. Working class and that kind of thing. Northern, he definitely ticks that box, and he's got a promotion on his CV as well. So, all in all, pretty decent so far.
Yeah, and you say there's been a bit of an upturn in the last few weeks. I mean, what would you put that down to?
Yeah, tough, really. I think just he talks about both boxes a lot, and they were creating chances, just not taking them, and then maybe the one chance they gave away had going at the other end. So had 2 real good home performances, or results, should I say, over the festive period. Beat Sheffield Wednesday, which he said was his favourite win so far. They were good Wednesday. It was a brilliant end-to-end, full-throttle Championship match, and North End managed to take their chances and win 3-1. So, I think that was a big boost for the team. But, just both boxes, really.
Now, of course, looking ahead to the FA Cup game on Saturday, with a manager who is obviously taking his first FA Cup game with a new side, it might be harder to answer this question. But have you been given any indication of how Paul Heckingbottom will try to approach this game? I guess with the side sitting in mid-table in the Championship, there's not really a lot to lose for them to take this one quite seriously.
Yeah, not spoken to him yet, but I imagine the message will be it's a good game for us, really. Just had a difficult defeat away from home, and then drawn against Oxford. So just try and get that winning feeling back in camp, really. But I don't think he'll be under any illusions that Charlton will come and really be up for it. So I think it'll be approached seriously, taken seriously. But he does kind of enjoy cup games, from what I've heard and seen so far, as a kind of that pressure just off a little bit, just go and enjoy it. But try and win the game for sure. Yeah. There'll be opportunities given out, and people will have to try and take them. But no, I think it's a decent game, the timing of it, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I guess you're expecting at least a few changes from from Preston then?
I'd think so, but it'll still be an experienced senior team. We've not really got too many academy prospects pushing or anything like that. So the likes of Sam Greenwood, who's on loan from Leeds and has been kind of going again and again, Kessler Hayden from Villa, maybe get a rest. But no, I'm sure it'll be a proper side put out.
Yeah, I remember Kessler Hayden's been a thorn in our side when he's been on loan in League One a few years ago. One player that a lot of Charlton fans will be hoping they might be able to get a glimpse of course, is Patrick Bauer. Charlton legend, scored our winner in the playoff final before then scoring for Preston the next season against us, ironically. But I know he's been in and around it again recently. Do you think he's got a chance of playing?
If I was to guess, I'd say no, but definitely not. Like, certainly no. There's definitely a chance. He played against Fulham back in August. He's had a horrible couple of years, really, Bauer, in terms of just no game time. He was frozen out by the previous manager, and then he played for the first time in a long time against Fulham in August and did really well, but had suffered a serious elbow injury after about an hour and not really been seen since. But I think he's played for the reserves this week, so he's definitely there in the manager's kind of vision if he wants to pick him, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise, but I'd probably say on the bench.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been on the bench quite a lot over the last few weeks, I can see. So maybe the Addicts fans will get a chance to see him again. But just in terms of the rest of the side, then, who are the danger men that the Charlton fans will need to look out for at Deepdale on Saturday?
Well, it'll be interesting to see who starts up front, but I think Militanos might come back in. He's signed last summer from Cadiz for a couple of million, and he's a bit of a bruiser of a striker, but he's shown that when chances come along, he tends to stick him away. He's pretty deadly in front of goal, so I think he might lead the line. And yeah, I think whoever starts up front, probably Charlton will have to watch out for. Will Keane's an experienced kind of technical striker. Emil Rees has been a pretty decent threat at championship level now for 3-4 years. So yeah, I'd probably keep an eye on them. But if Greenwood does play, he's been the standout player this season on loan from Leeds. Lovely player in behind the strikers, good technical quality, set pieces, full of energy and aggression. So yeah, definitely something for Charlton to think about. But I guess that's something for them to kind of embrace and pit their wits against.
There we go. That's George from the Lancashire Post speaking to me earlier on today. I guess the only really thing we need to talk about from a Preston point of view, Sue, is I hope that Paddy Bauer does get some time on the pitch, or at least a chance to maybe be paraded in front of the Charlton fans, so we can remember the good old days.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pat will always have a special place in our heart, won't he, for what he did for us. So I think, yeah, the fans that are going up there, and I think Pat deserves that recognition from our fans, the same as we want to pay it to him. So it would be lovely to see him on the pitch. But if not, and he's on the bench, even if he doesn't get on, maybe there'll be some sort of opportunity for him to sort of acknowledge the Charlton fans so they can give him that love back.
Lovely stuff. Right, let's quickly hear Nathan Jones looking ahead to the cup tie as well. This is from his press day with Terry earlier on today.
To the weekend, FA Cup beckons at Preston, and will this be one of your toughest team selections? Because the team's on a roll, the confidence must be high, everybody must want to play, but obviously we know what the priority is in terms of this season. So is it going to be a little bit of a test for you that you've got to maybe disappoint some players on Saturday? We've got 1,000+ people going up, fans going up there. People looking for a bit of an upset, maybe.
Well, look, we were going there to win the game. I mean, I've never gone into a game looking to shut up shop and thinking the teams are better than us and we can't win. We're not. We're going there. Preston are a perennial, I think is the word, perennial championship side. Every year they are, they're really competitive. They're well run. I know lots of people there. Obviously, and from the hierarchy right down to the management and a lot of the players, and they're a really, really good championship side. So it'll be a tough. So instantly, there's an upturn in quality, an upgrade in quality that we'll come across. But we have to raise our game for that, and we're really excited about it. There's a bit of romance in it because it is. I'd rather be going to Wrexham to to Preston than Bolton, for example. Not because I think that's an easier game, but I don't want to prepare for another League One game. I'd rather be prepared for something different, give our players a different challenge, and have a right go. And that's what we'll do. We're excited by the game. It's the FA Cup, so it always has a little bit of, a diverse challenge, and we're really looking forward to the weekend.
There you go. Just a brief look ahead from Nathan Jones there. Tom, how strong do we go then? Do we go full strength?
I think so. Yeah, I don't. Obviously, there is the risk of injury. I suppose I was about to say I don't see a downside to that, but obviously, if someone gets injured, then there is. But I think we're on a good run of form. He hasn't changed the starting 11 for a few weeks now. We obviously had the Crawley game off. I know we've played since then, so we have had a bit of a break, if you like. It hasn't been every Saturday, Tuesday over the festive period, which sometimes it can be. So if we are rotating, I think we're only rotating for strength. I don't think we should be just chucking this game at all. As I said right at the start of the show, this is an opportunity to prove themselves against a mid-table championship side and see what they're capable of. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the same starting 11. Maybe there'll be one or two changes, but I wouldn't expect anything major. And Nathan Jones doesn't seem like the sort of manager who's going to let players drop off, or he doesn't seem to play any game at sort of half pace or chuck any game. So, yeah, I think it'll be the same starting 11, and I think we'll try and give it a really good go.
Yeah, I mean, both John and Sam in the chat say stick with the same starting 11. I guess, obviously, if possible. We don't know how everyone's come through training, etc. this week, Sue. But, I mean, I'm thinking about our best performances so far this season. And who have they come against? They come against the best sides in League One. So that sort of gives you some sort of hope as well, that there's a game plan that we know works against sides that on paper would be a better side than us, or will enjoy more possession than us. Or it'll be interesting to see how that translates into taking on a championship side. Obviously in terms of Preston, like I say, mid-table championship side, but let's not beat around the bush. A mid-table championship side, when you compare it to a mid-table League One side, is a very different animal. So, I mean, it's certainly going to be a tough game, but maybe one that our game plan at its best works quite well against.
Yeah, and I think that's why even earlier in the show we've said I think that's where it's going to be a really good test of how good we can be, or where we need to strengthen more. Because if we put out our strongest 11 and we win, then I mean, that's just even a bigger bonus. But if we look like we're a little bit weaker in certain areas, then maybe that gives us a bit more sort of knowledge about where we really need to strengthen, not just in January, but in the summer. And I think players will be up for it, because, again, as much as they might be enjoying playing at Charlton and that, it's always when you're playing a higher league side, it's that shop window, isn't it? You're showing the best of your ability to a club that are effectively bigger than the one that you're at. So I think I would 100% stick with the same 11, build that momentum that we've been building over the last few weeks. And again, if we win, more confidence in the squad. It will just show us, I think, a lot about where we need to improve, but also where we need to really try and keep some of these lads in this squad.
Yeah, and a couple of people asking if there's a replay. So there won't be a replay. Same as we saw at Southend, it will go extra time and then penalties. So hopefully everyone's taken that into account when booking their trains. Obviously, we didn't need penalties, or extra time against Walsall, where we won 4-0 in the last round. It's remarkable that we must be in the FA Cup proper this season. We must be up there amongst the top scorers. We scored 8 goals so far this year, Tom. Obviously, we're not really expecting that sort of game on Saturday. No one's expecting to go and score 4 goals at Preston. But as I said to Sue, it feels like there's something there, especially with that momentum that we've built up over the last few weeks in terms of the performances. I guess what would be nice to see as well is if we can actually take some of that better football that we played over the last few weeks and show that we can do that as well against a better side, because I guess the majority of the wins at the start of the season were a certain type of football, but Nathan Jones has spoken about how he's tried to transition the side a bit and the side has perhaps matured into the style he's wanted to see over the last few weeks as well. So, I mean, that would be a bit of a bonus if we could show that we could play that against a better side as well.
Definitely, yeah, because you look at that game against Southend, and okay, we come through it in the end, but I think a lot of us felt like we probably didn't deserve to, although the quality of some of the individual goals was actually quite good, but they really tested us. And you expect Preston to test you because they're a level above, but if you can knock it around and you can play good football, you can still come out of it with some credit and some confidence in that as well. So yeah, I do hope we do that. I think the other thing to be slightly cautious of is when we have rotated, or even when we've brought players on in recent games, it does feel like the quality has dropped a little bit. I'm not saying that for everyone, and it's not as simple as those players aren't as good as the players that are starting, but I do think Nathan Jones needs to be able to trust the players that he brings on as well. So if he does rotate, it will be interesting to see if there is a drop. And again, with momentum being such a key thing for us in our league form, I think we just need to be trying to keep things as consistent as we can in terms of the starting 11 and in terms of that playing style. So yeah, let's not go there and think just because they're the bigger team, we're going to try and go direct and try and roughhouse them and try and get out of it that way, because I don't think that's the best way to play this. I think go there, play the football that actually has been a little bit better. I'm not going to say it's sparkling, but it's certainly been improved in the last few weeks. Keep that team the same, give it a good go. And as I say, you don't know, they're mid-table. In terms of league positions, if you take the leagues out of it, they're not a million miles above us. And we've shown at the top of this league that we can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Wickham and of Wrexham and of Birmingham, who are a championship side in all but position. So there's nothing to say we can't get something out of this. But if we play our football and we put a good shift in and we have plenty of shots and we lose 1-0 to a scrappy goal, fair enough. I'm happy to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Joseph's question where I said the better side, surely a higher league side. I mean, I don't think you can underestimate how much the jump has become recently, because in the amount of money that is awash in the Championship. And if you look at Portsmouth, who absolutely walked our division last season and really struggled since they got up to the Championship. I mean, it's absolutely winnable because it's a one-off game of football. But if we play them 100 times, you'd expect them to win 70% of the times. That's the sort of challenge that we're going for. But that, like I say, Sue, that's absolutely no reason to write us off in this competition. And I absolutely love the FA Cup. And like as I said at the top, I weren't massively buzzed when we got Preston away, but the nearer we've got to it, and the more I thought that we can win this game and we can go up there and have a good day, and it's not a massive, it's not a massive test like a Man City away or anything like that. You think, well, let's go and make it a proper cup tie. We're taking 1,000 up there. That's a real good return for us. It'll make a lot of noise. Let's have a proper day out.
Yeah, the FA Cup's always got that special aspect to it, isn't it? And again, I get what's being said. They are a better side necessarily, not necessarily, but they're in the league above us for a reason, and we're in League One for a reason. So I think you have to sort of respect your opponents, but also play your own game and hope that works. And as Tom was saying, like the way we've been playing lately, there's no reason why we can't win it. So it's just, there is I feel like there is a big gap between the leagues. And we've already said, like, even the quality within League One at the higher end of League One isn't that great. So that step between League One and the Championship is actually bigger, and I think it's getting bigger. But there's no reason, if we don't play our best game, or even like we have been recently, there's no reason why we can't win it. And I think that would just be, it's just adding to that positivity around the club, the momentum that you've already been talking about. I think if you then got the prospect that you might get a big draw in the next round, it's just amazing. It would be money wise as well, the money that brings in as well.
Yeah, there was big prize money up for grabs. I think I saw someone say it's about 100 grand in this round. If it is, I mean, that's massive, isn't it? Right, John says, don't be intimidated by their league status. Get in their face, play well, and we can win. And finally, when all hell let loose says FA Cup used to have a special feeling, but does it still really? I mean, partly it's because it's what us fans will bring to it. And like I said, we've taken 1,000 fans to Deepdale. It's, a ground we've not been to for a little while. It's a great ground, historic ground, proper football club. As James says, is this the same Louis from November, loving the optimism? I don't know why. It's the FA Cup's grabbed me by the by the balls, as in the balls you pull out when you're doing the FA Cup draw, not the other ones. And I'm actually really looking forward to Saturday. So hey, let's go, let's have some fun. It's the FA Cup. Let's see if we can get into round 4. Right, we've run out of time on Charlton Live, the big match preview. It's certainly done its job on me because I'm really looking forward to the game. So I hope you all enjoyed the show as much as I have this evening. Massive thanks to everyone who's joined us live today, and of course to our special guest George from the Lancashire Post. Look forward to the game on Saturday. Tom and Sue, an absolute pleasure as per always.
Yeah,
Cheers,
really
both.
enjoyed tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Lovely stuff. Right, don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Preston in the FA Cup. If we get through, the draw will be on Sunday afternoon, so I'll have to see if I'll be about to do a live show if we get through, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it because I'm normally out on a Sunday. But yeah, we'll see. Right, this has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. I'm Louis Mendes. Good to speak to you all. See you again on Sunday.
Charlton Live.